Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright with Dr. Robert Wright Jr., your go-to wellness coaches of StressFreeNow.info. Our special featured guest today is Jeanne M. Stafford. She will explain how you can more easily build rapport and have communication success by getting to yes. Jeanne is a professional speaker and communications trainer. From 15 years as a political and nonprofit fundraiser with local, national, and international clients, Jeanne learned on the job what works in communication and what doesn't. Jeanne's clients learn to communicate what they want to say when they want to say it. They learn to communicate succinctly and to make the impact they wish in every space they enter by thinking and saying yes. In addition, clients learn to be resilient in the face of conflict and establish strong, ongoing relationships at work and at home. In addition to speaking and training, Jeanne writes for the Huffington Post and is thrilled to be releasing her first of many books about communication this spring. She is the host of Jeanne Stafford's networking dinner in New York City, where she presents guest speakers and facilitates conversations to give guests the tool to become more successful communicators. Jeanne serves on several local boards in the arts and education. She brings her accrued wisdom to each keynote, workshop, and training session to help individuals and teams discover their inner yes and empower them to possibility. Jeanne's goal is for clients to uncover greater confidence to say what they want to say and to make the impact they want to make. Bob and I are thrilled to have Jeanne on the show today. Audience, welcome. Jeanne, thank you for being with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Jeanne, we are so thrilled to have you on our show today. And audience, you are in for a very special treat because Jeanne has some very unique abilities and capabilities. Plus, she's funny and smart. And so we love having on a person that's witty and kind and intelligent. And I think all of you will enjoy that. So, Jeanne, to start off our show, please share your story and your journey of how you came to be a master communicator using comedy as a way of achieving amazing self-transformations.
Well, thank you for calling me a master communicator. I receive that humbly, and I'll tell you that each group I speak to, I begin by saying, I have more to learn from this space than I have wisdom to impart. There are so many beautiful people in the world, and there are so many places where we can be aligned with others to move forward. That is where I have this wonderful relationship with the word yes. And my ability to communicate more effectively in my life increases that way by me being more mindful of yes. 18 years ago, I started taking improv comedy classes in New York City. And for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what improv comedy is, it is the opposite of stand-up comedy in that stand-up comedy, an individual stands at a microphone with a script in their head and they deliver jokes that have success or not. And they have an audience in front of them that they deliver the jokes to. Improv comedy performers walk onto a stage in groups, 2 to 3 people or more, and they turn to the audience and they ask for suggestions for the scenes they're about to produce for the audience. And so immediately the fourth wall is down and immediately improvisers enact a set of systems to deliver a show to an audience. And after 18 years of studying this, the practice of improv has become has been aligned in my own spiritual awareness of every space we enter. And I realized in my life that if I thought the way an improviser thinks to create a scene, I could have and have enjoyed an easier life, easier communication, and more happiness than sadness. So the systems involved in the improv scene are ones that I train people to think about when they communicate in their lives. And the vocabulary we come up with, I call yes words. And these are the words people use that when they say them, they have greater momentum because they've said them. For example, Bob and Christine, you convey certain yes words beautifully, just with your mannerisms and the way you speak. And Bob, if I were to give you 3 yes words that are words that when you say them, there's a momentum to them that lifts the audience, and those 3 words would be gratitude, peace, and openness. And Christine, I was moved by your so much of what you said. We just now had some great laughter. So you're joyful at hello. And 2 words you said to me that caused momentum in me were reshaping and the mystery. Talking about the mystery we come with. That is what I work on to uncover in clients, and that's how I arrived at the yes word.
That's lovely. It's very inspiring, Jeanne. I'm inspired listening to you.
Yes, and Jeanne, 2 points. One, you mentioned the term, the fourth wall coming down. I just want you to talk a little bit about what that is, and then I want to thank you because maybe I'm the only person, but when you laid out the distinction between improv and stand-up comedy, I had to be honest. I had never given any thought to, I thought of improv and comedy. They were in the same box or category in my mind. So obviously there's a clear distinction, and those 2 things are actually polar opposites. Because in a previous conversation we had with you, you said, when a person's doing comedy, it's more in ego, and doing improv is actually the opposite because you don't know what could happen, and that's the point, that it's open and it's generative.
Exactly. And because there are so many elements to improv that I now see as so incredibly simple, I'll tell you that when I perform with other friends, we're always learning. We never stop. So our improv practice is a hobby, and we're drawn to it over and over again because it makes us happy to watch these transformations happen in record time. When you realize how you could apply these principles to have these rapid transformations in your own life, it enables you to become unstuck. So one of the principal factors in improv is to get to it. If the audience has given you a suggestion of where you are, if you're at a coffee shop, get to it. Talk about the coffee immediately. If an audience told you you're a police officer and a drug addict, get to it immediately. Let the audience see what they offered and get to it immediately. Sometimes when we communicate, we fluff things up a lot because we think, well, we have to do this big, long intro. And now, more than ever, are we called to get to it fast, because as communicators in every vehicle, our audiences are only with us for a brief time. And if we don't get to it immediately, we lose them. So that's one area of improv, getting to it and getting to the relationship that the audience is already counting on. That's a very powerful way to transform the way you communicate.
Great, Jeanne. Can you just explain a statement that you have on your website for our audience? You say that yes ignites the powerful communicator inside of you. What is that about, and how does that happen?
When we are aligned with what we're here to do and what our purpose is, we are less distracted. So I know that every single person who's listening got up a couple of days ago with a great plan to do X, Y, and Z. And life did not go according to plan. 1 or 2 things didn't happen according to plan. And knowing what your yes is, in other words, knowing what you want to achieve at work on a particular day, knowing that you're here to lead 3 people to produce an advertisement and one of them doesn't show up, knowing that you're the parent of a child who was supposed to submit a college essay at a certain time and it's crunch time now and you're not going to be able to tend to that. To remember what you're here to do and how you are of support to others, how you're going to give to the relationships in your life. So to go back to the 3 people in the team, we're down 1 team member. We still have a goal, and I know that we can capitalize on this time together. I'm looking for people to make some suggestions and help us out here and help move us forward. If the person doing that has always been a leader, if the person doing that has terrific experiences in their life where things went well, they want to go back to the yes inside of them. They want to go back to when they had success, and they want to communicate that to the team they're leading. If a parent is beside themselves with a child who's late submitting an essay for a college application, and the parent brings with them that conversation to the child, like, I want to wring your neck, this was due, and mommy doesn't have the time to help you out right now, there's an opportunity to go back to your inner yes, remind yourself of the love of the relationship of your child, and remind yourself you were once that child. You once missed a deadline, and to meet it with care and optimism and support. And each of us has a yes inside of them that is relative to the relationships we have in the space we enter. And that's what I talk about when I talk about getting to your yes. If you forget it's there,
thank you, Jeanne.
You're in conflict
that
longer.
That is so beautiful. I mean, I know I'm talking over you, but I couldn't help. I'm trying not to cry. I mean,
well, I'm glad it helped, and we have so much control over ourselves. We have so much control about what we think. And the only reason we stay in conflict a long time is that we forget that control. Improvisers know to get to the conflict immediately. In improv, we call it an event. So when something goes wrong in the scene or something does not go according to plan, it's the perfect opportunity to move through it and to transform, to be affected by the relationship you have with the other person in the scene. And that's why it's so pleasing, because you're reminded that you have each other's back, and you're reminded you're going to get to the end of the scene together, and you're reminded this is a wild ride of saying yes to the offer that comes, leaving your ego off stage and allowing the scene to take you where it's going. As the manager of the three people does, when they tap into, we still have a plan, we have to get to the end of this project, and as the parent does, when the parent turns to the child and says, we're going to do this. I'm changed now. I'm a little ticked off. I had to work through the fact that I can't do what I planned on doing tonight because I have to help you with this essay, and that's okay. And I feel better because I accepted it. I'm transformed by it, and the less we resist, the more we have faster outcomes. And faster outcomes lead to inviting more great things in your life. Most of what's going wrong in our life is because we're holding on to conflict. We're holding on to what's wrong. We're repeating what's wrong to other people, and we are reliving it rather than getting to it, moving through it, and saying yes to the next thing that could possibly happen that could be wonderful.
Jeanne, thank you so much. Did I say you were inspiring? Oh.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you.
Listening to you, there's such a wonderful sense of momentum. And as I listened to you, thoughts came to my mind that I think you may have answered this next question that I have in my mind. You speak about get to it immediately. My tendency sometimes, not all the time, is to prepare and have such a long wind-up. People are like, what is she trying to say? So tell me this, Jeanne. What have you found to be the main or common factors that most often cause miscommunication in relationships and prevent people from getting to yes?
3. There are 3 things I find contribute to almost all miscommunication. Then the first one is silence. If someone hasn't heard back from someone, people start to make up what they believe to be true about the silence.
I love that. Christine mentions that to me all the time.
My husband is the king of that.
You get a big check mark, Jeanne, because that applies to me. Go ahead.
And this is a biggie in the man-woman department. So The person who's receiving the silence as a victim starts to imagine, this bubble in their head starts to grow about all the things, all the reasons for the silence, and suddenly factors about the relationship have manifested from thoughts, from ideas, from preconceived notions contributing to the silence, so that when the silence is broken, more is brought to the exchange than is needed, and miscommunication ensues, and so we have a victim, and then we have somebody defending themselves that they didn't cause the victim to be sad, and so silence is one. That causes miscommunication. So what can a person do who's experiencing the silence? The person can pull up one of the almighty improv tools, which is trust. Trust the space to be silent. Trust themselves to be present in the silence. And trust that what's coming, that what is coming, when it is coming, is meant to be in the time it's meant to be. So number one, that causes miscommunication is silence. Number two, that causes miscommunication is longing for outcomes. Many of us say, I want this person to do this. I'm entering this space right now, and I'm about to tell you, and I know by entering this space and by the actions I'm putting into this universe, I want this to happen. When we do something, now obviously in work, we need to work to create certain outcomes. We need to work so that we can generate value for the people we work for. And when we are longing for things to happen a certain way in a certain time frame, we are often creating miscommunication in that we're not ready to hear something else. So in a general sense, seeing only one path forward can cause miscommunication in relationships at home and relationships at work. And the third, and the one that most of us forget about, the most beautiful source of communication is the grounding of us. So forgetting self-care contributes to miscommunication. That's why I have it third, and I would love to have it be, for the listeners, an umbrella, maybe a circle, maybe a heart around the others. Never forget self-care. Self-care is personal. It could be prayer. It could be meditation. It could be the words of care you use for you. If you want to hear something from others, make sure you're saying it to yourself daily, at least twice a day, in 10-minute increments, in 5-minute increments. We have so many sources now for self-care. We have so many moments where all of us could take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and feed our souls, feed our hearts, feed our minds. And when we do that, there's more space for communication, and we are less apt to be in miscommunication because we build our trust for what is to be.
Lovely. Thank you so very much, Jane. Audience, let's take a short break, and we will be back in a moment on Learn to Live Stress-Free with our featured guest, Jeanne M. Stafford.
Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Wright, Jr., the Stress Relief Doctor, co-host of the Learn to Live Stress-Free podcast series. I'm an author, speaker, and stress management wellness coach. My published study is the first to show the connection between stress reduction, grief recovery, nitric oxide spiking, and the relaxation response. And my practical application of this knowledge helps you relieve the stresses of everyday life. I have the tools to dissolve your pain points quickly and effectively. Email me to find out how you can start to feel better now at stressfreenow.info/contact. That's stressfreenow.info/contact. Have you been procrastinating about completing an important project or pursuing a treasured dream? Christine Wright specializes in helping her coaching clients to lay out clear, elegant strategies. She shows you how to quickly build your confidence to uncover and eliminate your habitual patterns of resistance and self-sabotage. Christine helps you discover those meaningful insights that will get you to do what works so you can celebrate your successes. Go to stressfreenow.info/contact to let Christine know that you're ready to live your ideal life now. Again, that's stressfreenow.info/contact.
Welcome back to Learn to Live Stress-Free as we continue our conversation with our featured guest, Jeanne M. Stafford.
Jeanne, how do you go about getting people to say yes to wherever they are? I was thinking about the beauty of what you were talking about before the break, and I was trying not to get weepy because what you're talking about is so intimate and personal if a person is honest. And you look at your family relationships, you look at your work relationships, or just even one of the things that Christine and I talk about from time to time is how when we meet someone that we don't know, and often when you have the experience of immediate rapport in a very short period of time, we know more about those people than maybe people we've known all our lives, and so sometimes it stuns us. So could you just address that, this getting to yes wherever you are, because you talk about entering that space?
I love this one because I am the oldest of 5, and I had to unlearn that I could control people. So by my mere position in life as the oldest of 5 and the oldest grandchild, the messages I received growing up was that I'm in charge. I can get people to do things. And the whole idea is that what I've learned is that I'm not here to get people to yes. I am here, and I am able to model the communication that I'm teaching people. I can ask others to share their stories live and then work through them live. So when I speak of yes, I do it, I pray on this every day, and I meditate on it every day, that I do it in a way that I'm aligned as closely as possible, that I'm giving myself permission to speak of it from a place that is my true experience. And I love how you just said, Bob, that you develop this immediate rapport with people, and that is it. That's what yes is. So at hello, even on the phone, you and Christine are warm, and you create what you are, a space of reduced stress. You are literally an extension of your work, which creates an intimate and personal exchange in the people who are ready to receive your message. So when I talk about getting people to yes wherever they are, I know that increasingly the number of people I have those exchanges with that you just talked about, it gets better. It keeps happening. I opened up a letter from somebody who was in the audience where I spoke 2 weeks ago, and it brought tears to my eyes yesterday morning. And it was simply that she came into the space with so many struggles, and she left with a better understanding that the people around her were more kind than she believed there were, and she was truly happier in her life, and that by merely thinking yes about the life she'd chosen to live, that she could be happier. And I was reading it again. I'm humbled by the reactions of audiences. So I'll go back to how much I love your question, because every single person on this call has something they deliver to the world in the smallest way possible and in the largest way possible. So whatever anybody's yes is important, and as long as they're speaking truthfully about their connection to it, then they can get people to that too. Whether it's buying cement from them to build buildings, or buying their book to improve their use of the computer, that is what it is. So it's an opportunity for all of us to align more fully with what we're here to do.
That was lovely, Jeanne. As I listen to your response, I want to just repeat something you said before that was so lovely for me when you talked about self-care, that if we bring self-care to a communication, that puts things on a whole other level. Then you're less likely to be looking for something from someone if you're doing self-care. and that leaves a certain amount of openness and freedom in your communication. So that really struck a chord with me. Jeanne, you wrote a book, based on your experience with your son about Asperger's and the challenge of raising a child with this condition. Would you share your experience with that and why you felt the need to write this book?
The interesting journey with my writing is that I wrote the book because I started to enjoy my communication as a writer. And I wrote the book because a lot of people were asking me for assistance in this particular area. And ironically, the book became less about only him and the struggle with Asperger's and more about my journey to where I am now, because I realized how much people wanted to know about my journey. And the more truthfully I told it, the better they would be able to realize their own. It is now the second of two books, because I wrote a book this summer in 2 weeks as a precursor to that book. And hence is the journey of Jeanne saying yes. So the first book I wrote that's going to be out in about 2 months, 2 to 3 months, is the precursor to that, because the name of the book is Think, Drink, Eat, Move, A Day in the Life of Yes.
Wow.
When my readers read that book, they will know what to do with themselves every day. They will know how to feed themselves. They will know how to deliver self-care every day. They will know how to communicate self-care. And ironically, that became the first book. I have self-published it, and as I said, it'll be out in, my prayer is the next 2 to 3 months. And the book you're talking about, Christine, is, if my ego or my judgment were to get into this, a much more significant book, a longer book. And the title I'm working with at this moment is Break the Rules: Communication Strategies Used from Asperger's, Improv, and Politics.
Wow.
I think people are going to learn a lot from these books, Jeanne.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is completely wonderful. Well, we want to thank you so much for being our featured guest today. Bob and I thoroughly enjoyed having you. And before everyone runs out and calls to join an improv program, I would like to ask you to use this time to let our audience know how they can get in touch with you if they'd like to work with you, learn with you, have you do a keynote speech for them. So just let our audience know how they could work with you or get in touch with you.
Okay, great. I work with people in a number of different areas. I train people one-on-one, do a program on the phone for 8 weeks, and for people who are local, the first 7 are on the phone, and the final one is in person, helping people work through the areas where they're experiencing most stress. And what my clients have told me ends up happening is that they get to uncomfortable, and I keep them comfortable while they're uncomfortable getting to the next stage, because breaking through anything great in life can cause a little internal stress and discomfort. So that's what that one-on-one training is for. And again, for people who are local, I also am an advisor to clients monthly in person. I do keynotes for different groups. I'm going to be in Orlando, very close to you, next weekend, presenting at a conference. And I do keynotes to groups and workshops, all training groups to communicate these spaces alive. There are no PowerPoints. And I create an improvised live environment for people to, on the spot, work through how to get to their yes in communication. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, my email is Jeanne at JeanneMStafford.com. Jeanne is spelled Jeanne at JeanneM Stafford.com. And I would love to hear from callers, and even who callers would like 10 minutes on the phone with some questions they may have after listening to all this. I'd be delighted. And please go visit my website, where I have a free offering called the 30 Days of Yes, and it's right on the front page of the website at JeanneMStafford.com. So you enter your email in there, and you get a yes message every day for 30 days to set the tone for your practice of yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jeanne. So again, listeners, you can contact Jeanne at her website and her first name is Jeanne, JeanneMStafford.com. Thank you so much, Jeanne.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Jeanne, I know our audience has been enthralled listening to you. What final thoughts or key idea would you like to leave our audience with today?
Oh, well, give yourself a break more often than you give yourself a job. Listen to your heart as often as you work to listen to others. This is a life worth living, and it is a life with lots of confusing places to be communicated. So for anybody struggling with their own personal communication, I would urge them to give themselves a break more often than they're figuring out, well, I have to do this and I have to do that and I can't talk to that person anymore, and turn it all back into self-love and to give themselves a break.
Wonderful, Jeanne. So I want to thank you for being our featured guest today and for doing the interview with us. And I want to thank our audience for listening wherever they are and in whatever time zone they're in right now. We know our show reaches far and wide, and we appreciate your presence, and we trust that you'll benefit in some unique way from the information we provided you today on the show with Jeanne. As always, we welcome and look forward to receiving your comments about our show. Please let us know if there are additional topics you'd like to see us cover, or a guest like Jeanne who you enjoyed, whom you'd like us to invite back. Please contact us through our website with your feedback and suggestions. Remember, listeners, if you'd like to experience the same benefits our coaching clients get with us, including learning how you can get more results in your day and easy ways to dissolve your chronic pain, stress, or anxiety, then give us a call at 954-900-2179. Mention that you heard our Stress Free Now podcast show, and you will receive a free gift from us. Call or email us today to schedule your free consultation. For Christine Wright, this is Dr. Robert Wright, Jr. of StressFreeNow.info. Until next time, be safe and be well.